was only joint third after his opening run. He trailed after the opening 2 sections in the final, although it was another big 6-mark winning margin in the end, and was certainly made to work for it. Let's hope he'll be kept on his toes again this evening. Here then is your starting order, reading from right to left, with Marco Mempor the first out through the sections. Then it's Aniol Gelabert, Matteo Grattarola, Toby Martin, Bernard Bincaz, Adam Raga, and then the 3 podium finishers from the opening round: Jaime Busto, Gabriel Marseilles and Tony Bow. FIM referee David Rogers just getting into position and ready to set off Marco Mempor, home man. Born just 30 kilometres from this venue, was already at the arena on Wednesday looking at the course as the sections were still being completed. Marco Mempor, Austria's #1 since 2019, took his first national crown. He was then aged just 17, and he's led his national side in each of the last 4 editions of the Trial of Nations at international trophy level. He was a bronze medal winner with Austria in 2022. Marco Mempor then on his X-Trial World Championship debut, about to embark on the first of 5 sections. Mempor's opening run is underway. He's got 5 minutes to complete the course for the first time. Through the rock section then first, a little bit unbalanced there, and will take 2 marks, so 1 for leaning, for landing on the sump, and the other for the left foot that went down to try and position himself back in the section. So 2 marks thus far as Marco Mempor is concerned. Another step to make here and a turn before riding out almost straight through to the end of the section. Some good work there on the back wheel from Marco Mempor. 2 marks his score thus far, applauded enthusiastically by the crowd here in the Arena Nova. Mempor continuing on through then. A little bit further back perhaps on that rock than he wanted to be, but he's got it up now and has the exit gate in sight also. His assistant standing on the floor, and Marco Mempor now joining him. So that will be 2 marks for the home hopeful in the opening section of the day. That is now confirmed. And Mempor can move on to section #2. Section 2, which is the trunks, the big logs here. And already with an explosive entry into the section there, Marco Mempor. Really very inexperienced rider in this kind of competition. Remember, he was competing at 125cc level as recently as 2019. Massive season that was for him as well. He was a Grand Prix winner, took the European Junior title, and he was a race winner at senior level in the European Championship last season. He spent the last couple of seasons in Trial 2. Taken a single mark there for footing, as Marco Mempor. He's used it wisely to get himself into position. Gets the front wheel where he wants it. Solid start then for Marco Mempor. So far, so good. Still a little bit of technical work to do. He's got a 90-degree turn here. And once again, the exit gate within sight for Marco Mempor. Almost took another mark for leaning, but avoids it. So that's just 3 from 2 sections. And as I said, a strong start for a rider of his relative lack of experience. Like his first top flight appearance, as I said previously. The last couple of seasons he's been riding at Trial 2 level. Next up will be Section 3. A series of white modules for Mempor to negotiate here. So he's up through the first of them. They're laid out like giant bricks or perhaps misshapen dice. Marco Mempor with a tower now to climb, as I say, these block modules. Making his way up. And that's very nicely done indeed from Marco Mempor. Now positions himself to capitalise on the full width of the obstacle. And still proceeding through. Marco Mempor, I think, will have impressed a few people with his opening 2 rides. 3 marks to his name coming into this Section 3. And now the descent to manage. He's thinking about hopping down, and he does so successfully. Good work. Very good work indeed from Marco Mempor. Now, a big step, and a ramp that's inclined against him as well. Crowd watching on in the background. You can see the grandstands packed here in the Arena Nova. Marco Mempor halfway through this opening run. He's only got just over a minute still on the clock, but once again, another strong ride from him. And Marco Mempor is confirmed as clean in section number 3. So the score remains at 3 marks. He now only has 1 minute and 2 sections to try and tackle. And while he gets his pep talk and has a drink, that time is continuing to elapse. Looking likely that he's going to suffer a 5-mark score in at least one of these 2. So which does he think is more achievable? He's going to embark now on section number 4. Right modules. He's got part of the way up. He's now hauling the back tyre forward. And again, good work from Marco Mempor. Applauded that one by the crowd. Got onto the ramp and then hauled himself forward. Penultimate section here for Marco Mempor. He's got 30 seconds left on the clock. He's not going to get a chance to tackle section 5, so he's got to make this one a good one. He's done good work, but not swift work. As Marco Mempor, waiting for that clock to elapse then. He's got to try and get out of this section at very least, otherwise it'll be 2 failures. Does well to land there on the back tyre without taking a mark for leaning. He'll take one there. And he's going to use a foot as well, that's 2. So we'll wait to see what the confirmed result is of that section, for it is a failure. I did think I'd seen Wr.Neustadt put up his hand there for Marco Mempor, so it's a failure. He was running low on time anyway, so he's not going to get the opportunity to tackle section 5, and that means he finishes on a 13-mark score. But you'd have to say that was a very composed performance from Mempor, with only the 3 marks dropped in the opening 3 sections. He's done better, far better than most debutants at this level. So full credit to Marco Mempor for a strong opening ride. I don't think that 13-mark score is going to do him too many favours, but he looks pretty pleased with that, doesn't he? And quite right too, because he's shown he can hack it at this level in the opening 3 sections in his opening rides. So Marco Mempor finishes with a score of 13, and next up to try and beat that will be Aniol Gelabert, younger brother of former world number 5 Mikel Gelabert, of course. Aniol somewhat benefiting from his brother's move away from the sport, you'd have to say, because competition is so fierce for spaces, particularly with such a large pool of competitive Spanish riders. And it's that fact, plus the reduced riding opportunities that we've had during the pandemic, with fewer events and smaller fields at times, that have kept him out until now. And Aniol Gelabert, as I said in the build-up, already assured of another outing at Extra Pamplona. He's going to be the wild card there. So a couple of opportunities this season at very least for him to prove himself at this level. In then to section 1, Marco Mempor dropped 2 marks in this one. Aniol Gelabert will also know that he needs to be a darn sight quicker than Mempor was to avoid suffering a failure on time, as the Austrian did in the latter stages of his opening run. So far so good then for Aniol Gelabert. Very efficient work in this section 1. In the opening run for each rider, they've got 5 minutes for 5 sections. They only have 4 minutes for the 5 sections in round number 2. Wr.Neustadt just signalling a single mark there for leaning. And Aniol Gelabert is out 1 mark better off than Marco Mempor, and with a great deal more time on his side as well. Into the trunks then with section number 2. Aniol Gelabert already a mark ahead of where Marco Mempor was at the same stage, but he knows he's going to need to keep his score as low as possible with the big guns still to come. Remember, only 3 will make it through to today's grand final, so it is really about avoiding errors. That's probably an unforced error you'd suggest in section number 1. That's another mark there. Left foot has to go down, so a mark there for footing. Same score as Marco Mempor picked up in this second section. Not much to choose then between the 2 of them thus far, but it's in the final 2 sections where Aniol Gelabert has a bit of an opportunity to make a break. That was a very fast exit to section 2 on the side of the trunk at one stage on the way out, and that could have easily resulted in him not making it through the exit gate. Remember, the regulations for this season, riders have to get the whole bike through that exit gate in order to have successfully completed the section. Aniol Gelabert then with this mighty climb through the brick modules in section number 3. Marco Mempor cleaned this. All of those hard edges calling out for a drop mark for leaning. But Aniol Gelabert too has made swift work and is at the highest point now in the section. Remember, there's still a ramp to come, which Marco Mempor achieved with aplomb. We'll see what Aniol Gelabert can do here. Any drop marks in this one, and he would provisionally slip behind where Marco Mempor was at the same stage. Mempor finished on 13 marks, remember. Aniol Gelabert remaining clean in section number 3. So 2 marks for him on the board, 2 sections to go, and just over 2 minutes to do it. So he's been a great deal faster than Aniol Gelabert. He's left enough, a great deal faster than Marco Mempor, I should say. He's left himself a great deal of time to tackle these final 2. He's in now to section 4. Again, onto the module. This is where Marco Mempor did some neat work on the back wheel to get himself up to the top. Aniol Gelabert doing the same. Difference was that Mempor didn't have a great deal of time to play with. Aniol Gelabert still has over 1.5 minutes, so he's tracking nicely. If he can get through this one in the next 40 seconds or so, he'll still have a minute for the final section in this opening round. Assistant watching on as Aniol Gelabert makes his way through. One more step, watched on by Tony Bow, Takisa Fujinami and Gabriel Marseille. What a formidable force that is for Repsol Honda and their trial team. This is all about Aniol Gelabert making his way through section 4. Marco Mempor didn't get the opportunity to ride this far. Through these A-frames now. Gelabert brilliant there. Technical challenge for him. So 2 marks dropped in the opening 2 sections. He's not added any more marks to that since. Looks like being a low-scoring run. Straight into section 5. The tower going up to the height of the grandstands here on the far side of the arena. And again, risk for drop marks, for leaning, and there's one. And I think the right foot's gone down as well. I think that's going to be 2, and Aniol Gelabert's in a tangle here. He's still got 30 seconds on the clock to try and salvage something. He'll have taken at least 2 marks there for that clumsy error midway through. Aniol Gelabert then receiving the applause of the crowd. And he's down and now making his way back up. Assistant tethered to the top of the section. It'll be difficult to catch Gelabert there, as eventually they're forced to prove, and the time was about to elapse as well. I'll wait for confirmation. I'd say that'll be a 5-mark score. It is. It is a 7-mark total for Aniol Gelabert, and I think he'll probably be quite frustrated about that final section, because it was a good ride up until then. Just 2 marks from the opening 4. But that fiasco in section 5 may well cost him dearly. 13 marks then for Marco Mempor, 7 for Aniol Gelabert. Still 7 riders to come, starting with this man, Matteo Grattarola, the lone Italian in the field, the reigning world number 4. His hopes of a first FIM individual medal got off to the worst possible start at Extra Barcelona, finished down in 9th and last. That was his worst result since 2013. Did have a good second round at the Palau San Jordi, but really needs to hit the ground running tonight. Such a big season for him, having signed for the Vertigo factory and as their number 1 rider. So Matteo Grattarola into section 1. Nobody yet has managed to clean this. Marco Mempor dropped 2 marks first time out. Aniol Gelabert, the second rider to attack it, snagged a single mark for leaning. These jagged rock edges do call out for riders to make mistakes. Technical type of section rather than one of outright performance, and we did see Gelabert race his way through. See what happens here. The top surface of this penultimate rock is not really sufficient to rest the bike on, and Grattarola has landed for a mark for leaning. And he's got to get himself out of jail here, and Grattarola teetering momentarily and again struggling for balance. That's what X-Trial is all about. Grattarola finds that balance. My goodness, he's been close on a couple of occasions already on this rock to slipping out of the side of the section, but he hauls the bike forward in mid-air and manages to get out of jail free, as it were. Just a single drop mark then for Matteo Grattarola. Aniol Gelabert accrued the same score. Now into section number 2 for Grattarola. Single mark dropped here by both Marco Mempor and Aniol Gelabert. 35-year-old vertigo man, Matteo Grattarola, pressing on through with alacrity. Needs to make up a little bit of time. Getting stuck partway through section 1 certainly costing him a little bit on the stopwatch. Just this 90-degree turn, and then straight through to the exit gate for Matteo Grattarola. He's already got his eyes on the finish. Aniol Gelabert practically used the side of this trunk. Grattarola as well, and he's got stuck, and down goes Matteo Grattarola, and it's disaster in section 2 for the Italian. 6 marks now from 2 sections. Marco Mempor was only on 3 at the same stage, and in such a low-scoring run as it's been for Aniol Gelabert last time out, you would have to suggest that could be critical, and that's a 5-mark score again for Grattarola. He doesn't seem to have realised it, but he exited the course boundaries there. Or did he? Moreno Piazza's given the 5. Referee David Rogers speaks to Piazza, and the hand is withdrawn. Confirmation now of a 5-mark score. So Matteo Grattarola moves on to 11, already behind Aniol Gelabert. He's only 2 marks ahead of Marco Mempor. And it's a disastrous start to section 4 as well. He has to jump back down and have another go. Well, his assistant at this stage needs to be urging caution and calm, because Grattarola is certainly capable of these sections. But he appeared to lose his head in section 3 after making that mistake in section 2. Now he's got to gather as many points as he can. Second round still to come for Grattarola to try and make an impression. He needs to be as close as possible to the top 3 at the end of his opening run. Looking good for him at the moment, though, is it? Section number 4. Aniol Gelabert did clean this one. It looks like it's the longest of this opening round. Grattarola pressing on. He'll take a mark for leading there, I think. Landing on the sump by the looks of things. Just these A-frames now to negotiate towards the back end of round number 1. Matteo Grattarola then in severe trouble in his opening ride. Needs to get this right. Oh, when he hasn't done so, and he lands awkwardly and is back into a concrete module, that's going to be uncomfortable as well for Matteo Grattarola, and he's already going to be feeling like this night is one he wishes he hadn't turned up for, frankly. 40 seconds to go in round 1, and already 3 marks down on Marco Mempor, who, with all due respect, was not expected to get in amongst it and mix it on his World Championship debut, but has done a solid job, particularly in those opening 3 sections, and Grattarola has rather fallen apart. Has had a tough pre-season, as I said, in the build-up tonight, with injury worries, and he still isn't at full fitness, but it looked more like psychological issues for Matteo Grattarola as he lost his cool in the opening round, and that's another 5-mark score. Winding down somewhat gingerly, you'd have to say, Matteo Grattarola. I wonder whether there might have been any mechanical issues for him on that run as well. But either way, Grattarola only saves 4 marks in the whole of round 1. 21 marks his score, goes to the bottom of the pack. Marco Mempor on 13. Aniol Gelabert leads the way on 7. Next up will be Toby Martin. Busy weekend in prospect for him. I understand he's got the first round of the British Championship tomorrow. Martin, who's won the title in each of the last 2 seasons on TRS machinery. He's back on a Montesa in 2023. Embarks now on section 1. Another brightly coloured outfit tonight. Very retro as well. Martin making his way through. Nobody's cleaned this section still, because Toby Martin has taken 2 marks already. There's 1 more than Aniol Gelabert and 1 more than Matteo Grattarola. Martin looks over at the observer just to check. Looked like his assistant Alex Wigg was questioning it, and that's going to be a failure for Toby Martin in his opening ride. Disastrous start for Martin. Well, Marco Mempor's score looking very, very impressive indeed. Toby Martin now needs to recover his composure in the way that Matteo Grattarola couldn't. So Martin in section 1 Took 2 marks in the early stages of the section, and then another 2, 1 for footing, 1 for leaning, and that pushed him past 3, and that's a failure. Now section 2. Aniol Gelabert finished his ride on 7. Toby Martin is already on 5. That just goes to show you what these riders are up against. Gelabert with just a single failure. 2 failures for Marco Mempor and 4 for Matteo Grattarola. There's no way he's going through to the grand final tonight. Just about damage limitation again now for the Italian. Good work there from Toby Martin in section number 2. Really strong ride. Manages to get through it clean, so remaining on that 5-mark score. First rider, in fact, clean through that section 2. Good work on the landing there from Martin, where, remember, Grattarola exited stage right and out of the section altogether. The 2 previous riders, Marco Mempor and Aniol Gelabert, both cleaning this one. Oh dear, down goes Toby Martin for a second fiasco of this opening round. That moves him on to 10 marks. Grattarola obviously finished with 2-5, so there's no way that Martin can slip behind him. 2 sections still to come though, and he's already behind Aniol Gelabert. Gelabert's 7-mark score looking very strong at this stage. Around about half of the time remaining. Still with 2 sections to go. That's the one consolation for Martin, is that with that failure fairly early on in section 3, he's got a little bit more time banked in the remaining 2. And he needs to make good use of them. Aniol Gelabert was clean in this section 4. Failures for Marco Mempor and Matteo Grattarola before him. Toby Martin, as he makes his way through section 4 then. 10 marks, his score so far. Nice work there on that step. Now the landing, and then these A-frames towards the exit gate. Section number 4. Much in need of a big result here is Toby Martin, who was clean in section 2, but apart from that, a disappointment thus far. Gets that right on the back tyre. Brilliant work through section 4 then from Toby Martin. He's going to come to rue those errors in sections 1 and 3, there's no doubt about that. 10 marks his score. 3 ahead of Marco Mempor. That could be important, certainly in terms of seeding position for the second round, but possibly in terms of outright position for today's grand final. Martin then with a stuttering start. Alex Wigg almost catching the machine, decides against it. It's going to be 2 marks there, 1 for footing, 1 for leaning. We'll wait for official confirmation on that, but quite clear there from Toby Martin. Hasn't got too much more wriggle room now, has he? But he has got plenty of time on the clock. 5 sections in 5 minutes, but early failures in a couple of them. Well, this man, Toby Martin, he's up to the top. No, he isn't. Down for a 5-mark score then, Martin. Finishes round 1. 15 marks. He drops behind Marco Mempor. Aniol Gelabert 7. Marco Mempor 13. Toby Martin 15. Matteo Grattarola, an outright disaster on 21. But it wasn't much better, to be perfectly honest, for Toby Martin. Started in disappointing fashion, a section completed by 3 other men that he failed. Bounced back very nicely. First rider through clean in section 2, and then suffered 2 more failures in the remaining 3. And Martin on to 15, Mempor 13, Gelabert 7. And we now move on with Benoit Bincaz of France, representing Sherco, as yet unconfirmed in the lineup for Extra Pamplona next time out. So something of a mission for him to have a good night tonight and prove himself to the selectors. Try and remain on the rider roster. Remember, he was last among the permanent riders in 2022. And over 3 years now since his last podium, Benoit Bincaz. Section 1 of 5 underway, with 5 minutes once again on the reset clock. Toby Martin failed this one. No rider has yet been clean through here. Oh, and Bincaz isn't going to be either. It's a 5-mark score given. He was off the side of the rocks. The bike is almost stuck here. Bincaz, well, he's scattered the stones from the floor. I think he still thought there was a chance of continuing on in the section, because although his foot had touched the ground, the bike was still up in the section, but he couldn't climb back aboard. So Bincaz, the second rider to fail Section 1. Well, these rather technical sections in the Arena Nova catching out a fair few riders. What an excellent start to the night for Aniol Jalabert. At the time I said, well, it looks like it's going to be a low-scoring extra, but the evidence has been quite to the contrary since then. Matteo Grattarola and Toby Martin with high scores, and now Benoit Bincaz already on 5 marks. 7 is his target to move top. That's going to be another drop mark for Bincaz. Left foot forced to go down, didn't quite get the landing right on that top trunk. 90-degree turn now, and up this log ramp through to the exit gate, section number 2. Single mark thus far. Good work on the turn, and Bincaz is through to remain on that 6-mark score. Matteo Grattarola was on 6 at the same stage. That's the worst of anyone from the opening 2 sections, I'm afraid. Not a good start for Benoit Bincaz. Opportunity here to rectify it. Remember that both Grattarola and Martin failed this section. Bincaz gets the landing right, so that's already more than Grattarola managed. Now the main step, section 3 to the top of the tower. First tower completed, second tower also complete. Fairly straightforward. Now the descent. Interesting to see his approach here, straight down. That's the difference you see between Marco Mempor, who really had to take his time and bounce his way down, and Bincaz confidently surges his way forward. So he's still looking good in section 3. Bincaz pressing on then. Still 2.5 minutes remaining on the clock. That one successfully completed. So efficient work from Benoit Bincaz. Failure in section 1, certainly a disaster. Could be costly for him in terms of pursuit of a place on the podium, and indeed, therefore, by extension, in today's grand final. Section 4, failed by 2, Mempor and Grattarola, clean by 2, Jalabert and Martin. 2 minutes still to go. Longest section of this opening round. Benoit Bincaz. Hardest work in this section is still to come, no doubt about that. This step and then the A-frames, where it's technical ability and the rider's judgment almost to make sure they don't get caught between 2 of them. Fall short on any, and it'll be a nasty spill like we saw from Grattarola previously. Benoit Bincaz, though, showing no signs of difficulty thus far. He's left plenty in the bank for this penultimate section, as I said, the longest of the opening rounds. Still clean, Benoit Bincaz. Had a clean last time out in section 3, looking to make it back-to-back cleans. Maintain his very slender lead over Aniol Jalabert. Whoa, momentary loss of balance there for Bincaz, but he is through. 6 marks then the score for Benoit Bincaz with 1 section remaining, and this one failed by all 4 riders thus far. Jalabert looked very close to managing it. Here is Benoit Bincaz for his attempt. 40 seconds on the clock. He needs to get on with it, no doubt about that. Only 30 seconds now for Bincaz. Only 1 mark to play with against Aniol Jalabert, remember. 20. Under real pressure now, and Bincaz goes down. 5th rider consecutively to fail that section 5 as he finishes with an 11-mark score. Puts him into 2nd behind Aniol Jalabert, ahead though of Marco Mempor, as well as Toby Martin and Matteo Grattarola, who you would have fancied to be his closest rivals here tonight. 4 riders still to come. Top 4 from Extra Barcelona, first time out. Adam Braga. What a shock it is to see him this early in the seeding order. Disastrous night for him last time out at the season opener. Just acknowledging the crowd. The last extra winner at Vienna, Austria's previous host before Wr.Neustadt. Ragger's also been on the podium at all 3 previous editions of Extra Wr.Neustadt. 22 podiums during his career. That's from 143 appearances. The veteran sports all-time appearance record holder at 40 years of age. 144th appearance, of course, here tonight. So far, so good in Section 1. Failed by the last 2 riders, Toby Martin and Benoit Bincaz. I wonder if that's just because they were trying to push it in terms of time and made a slight misjudgment. And that's enough at this level. But Marco Mempor, Aniol Jalabert and Matteo Grattarola all made it through with aplomb. And a rider of the cool head that is Adam Ragger, you'd expect to make it through as well. That's a tough mark there for Ragger. Single on the board then. Gets through though in Section 1. There's still no rider clean in that one. Ragger, single mark on a single completed section. In now to Section 2. 38 times extra winner Adam Ragger. Toby Martin did manage to clean this Section 2. We know it can be done. But can it be done by Adam Ragger? We're about to find out. An error there from Ragger, single drop mark. Right foot going down on the landing. Another rider struggling to get the bike stopped between the 2 trunks and without teetering over the edge on either side. And that's an error from Ragger, and down he goes. Second rider to fail Section 2. That could be devastating for his hopes tonight as well. We saw how the smallest of errors in Barcelona cost him a place in the grand final. Long way to go, of course, because it's the aggregate score over 10 sections that determines the 3 who will progress inside those podium places. But that is not a good start for Adam Ragger either. Aniol Jalabert only had 2 marks from 2 sections. Ragger's already on 6. Into Section 3 then. He needs to keep his errors down to a minimum from here on in. Only 1 mark ahead of Aniol Jalabert. Still with 3 sections to complete. 3 riders clean through this one. Grattarola and Martin failed it. Ragger showing no signs of difficulty. Racing through it at this stage, you'd have to say. But only 2 minutes on the clock. He laboured at that Section 1. 2 minutes might well be all he needs. He's clean in Section 3 as Ragger. Still on 6 marks. 1 ahead of Jalabert. Current leader then of round number 1. Just taking fluids on board before the final assault. 2 remaining sections. Section 4, clean by 3 riders already. Jalabert, Martin and Bincaz. Into it goes Adam Ragger. Finding his balance. Finding the right position on the bike to make the landing. Nice big surface to land on as well. Nice big platform. Almost like a turntable to then set himself up. For these giant canisters. And a big step to come. And then finally those modules at the end of the section. The more technical section of this opening round is this one. Benoit Bincaz previously managed it clean. Adam Ragger looking to do the same. Well, he's recovered nicely from that Section 2 failure. Hasn't showed any signs of being perturbed by it. Clean last time out and clean thus far in Section 4. Only a minute though on the clock, so he does need to get on with it, you'd have to suggest. This is the kind of stuff he does at home in his backyard all the time. Made it look very easy as well. Yes, Ragger's training area, I can tell you, has got an awful lot of those kind of extra modules. Made it look straightforward. 6 marks then, with 1 section remaining. Oh, and his assistant taking a leap towards the bike. And has that been given as a 5 by Moreno Piazza? Adam Ragger's still working his way up. Well, it looks as though the result's been given as a 5. Ragger doesn't agree with it, but I think he's seen it on the big screen. And he stopped part way up the section. And that will be all she wrote of round number 1 for Adam Raga. 11 marks then the score. Aniol Gelabert finished on 7. Binkaz and Raga 11. Martin 15 is bottom of the pile with Marco Mempor in the mix as well on 13, and Matteo Grattarola last of all. So not a good run, you would suggest there, for Adam Raga. 3 men still to come. Our 3 podium finishers from X-Trail Barcelona. And Augusto, who was 3rd, Gabriel Marseille, who was 2nd, and Tony Bowe, the winner at the opening event of this season. Jaime Busto into section 1. 7 marks the score. Target score to remain inside the top 3 positions. Oh dear, disastrous start for Busto as well. 3rd man to fail section 1. Obviously some difficulty to that opening sequence of rocks and the turn as well. Martin, Binkaz, and now Busto. Marco Mempor looks like he's going to be right in the mix at the end of this opening round. Aniol Gelabert in a particularly strong position with only the 1 failure. Adam Raga's had 2. Ruby Martin had 3. Benoit Binkaz had 2 as well. Those are the riders that Gelabert is up against tonight. Well, great news that we'll see him next time out as well, as we see Jaime Busto making his way through in section 2. He's clean there, only the 2nd rider to clean section 2. He's come under attack at times for his temperament and how he reacts under pressure. Really gave up 3 championship points at X-Trail Barcelona. Dropped 7 marks in the final 2 sections of the night in the Palau Sant Jordi. Gabriel Marseille was clean through the same. Afterwards he said that it was nerves that affected his riding style. The kind of errors you can't afford when you're fighting the greatest of all time, Tony Bowe. But Busto certainly had the edge over Adam Raga first time out, and there's at least a chance that we'll finally see a change to the top 2 overall. Raga down in 4th after the opening round of this season. And Busto making light work, you'd say, of section 3 as well. He's on 5 marks with 2 to go. 2 up on Aniol Gelabert, the current leader in round number 1. Already in to section 4 and wasting no time on that first module. Diamond shape to it. And using it as a ramp to propel himself through. Busto looks in no great difficulty. Section 4 then continuing on. Nobody has completed section 5 successfully. It'll be interesting to see if Busto has a real run at that with a little bit of time on his side. Gelabert did come close, you'd say. Ran short of time towards the end as well. There goes Busto. Not the perfect landing, but it was good enough to avoid taking a mark for leaning. That's the main thing. These 5 A-frames now exit section number 4. 4 riders have already been clean through this one. Gelabert, Martin, Binkaz, Raga. Very shortly, Jaime Busto expects to add his name to that shortlist. And he does so. Busto with 3 cleans in succession, then that's more like it for him. After a stuttering start, the fiasco in section number 1. Busto's got his night back on track. 2 up on Gelabert. Remain above him though, he's got to get through this section 5. Bridging, next step. Slightly different approach, but it's worked nicely. Everyone seemed to struggle to even embark on this section. Busto halfway through it almost, with over a minute on the clock still remaining. Up he goes. Let's take a single mark for footing, the left foot going down. Straight down the middle. Make the descent. Very, very good here indeed is Wr.Neustadt. Now let's see what he can do on this. It's a very, very steep run to the finish. Daniel Jalabert found his cost. 40 seconds still to go for Busto. Can't quite propel the bike up. He gets up eventually, but it's with plenty of assistance, so he will finish on a 10-mark score from 5 sections. And Daniel Jalabert still leads Wr.Neustadt. Daniel Jalabert 7, Wr.Neustadt 10, 2 riders on 11, Bunobin Kaz and Adam Raga. 13 marks for Marco Mempel, 15 Toby Martin and Matteo Grattarola. Will probably feel that tonight's been a bad dream thus far. On 21. 2 men still to come then, and the 2 men who provided a Repsol Honda 1-2 last time out. The team made a spectacular launch and official photograph for 2023 last week, boxing ring photography with a fighting theme and the slogan, "We're ready." They certainly proved it at Extra Barcelona last time out. A 1-2 finish for them there. Marseille snatched second in the final section, and Montesa as a manufacturer certainly remaining the reference in the sport. Not only in terms of, bit of an error there from Marseille slipping back. Single mark for leaning, 1 for footing, the left foot going down. Marseille, though, manages to save it. And remember, Toby Martin, Bunobin Kaz and Wr.Neustadt all failed this section. All struggled with that turn earlier on. So Marseille's 2-mark score, not ideal, but far from disastrous. Raga, Grattarola, Jalabert all managed a single mark through this section. Nobody yet has been clean. Don't forget, we've still got Tony Bow to come. I'm sure he's going to give it a go. Marseille propels himself to the exit of section 1. We'll wait for confirmation. Certainly saw the 2 marks given there. Yes, that is confirmed now. 1 for footing and 1 for leading early in section 1. Racing through section 2. Cleaned this one by Toby Martin and Wr.Neustadt. See if Marseille can do the same. Won't just be competing here for a place in the grand final. He'll also be targeting victory in this opening round for a first World Championship point of the evening. To be in contention for that, first he's got to beat Daniel Jalabert on 7. Remember, it's cumulative total after the second round that will determine today's grand finalists, so a long way to go, even for those riders who've already completed their 5 sections. Another 5 to do. Marseille clean in section 2, 2 marks from 2 sections. Same as Daniel Jalabert at the same stage, so promising start for Marseille. Assistant waiting at the top of this first tower. 2 tower blocks, or block towers perhaps more appropriately, for Gabriel Marseille to make it up. Section 3, cleaned by the vast majority. This one, Matteo Grattarola and Toby Martin both hit difficulties. No such problems thus far for Gabriel Marseille. Young Galician rider, 23 years of age. Modules now to complete the second ramp at the end of section number 3. And Marseille once again is through clean. The more he piles on the pressure here, the stronger he's looking at the moment. 8 marks ahead of Wr.Neustadt. Can't wait to see what he's going to do in section 5. Needs to make sure he leaves himself enough time, but the first priority is going to be to clean this one. Last 4 riders have all managed to clean it. Marco Mempel failed it, but he was short on time, remember, and Matteo Grattarola failed it as well. And it's been a disastrous start to the night for him. There were about 2 minutes on the clock, with 2 sections to go for Marseille. We'll see what he can do here. Section number 4 then. Marseille on only 2 marks. Been a strong start to the night for him. Second, remember, in the World Championship after the opening round, took his 4th career podium at Extra Barcelona. Delighted with that result he was, but he'll know that there is a chance of more to come. Victory eluded him thus far in his World Championship career. 15 appearances already under his belt. Gabriel Marseille. 1 minute on the clock. Needs a little bit of speed and dexterity here to get out of section 4 with a chance still of tackling section 5. Needs to rush. Job done in the penultimate section of his opening run. 5-mark score here would move him onto the same score as Aniol Jalabert of 7. But by my reckoning, to remain ahead of Jalabert, he is going to have to get through this section number 5. Jalabert ran out of time. Failing section 5, of course, means that you take the maximum time penalty anyway. Jalabert's got an awful lot of, Marseille, I should say, has got an awful lot of work to do here. Only 20 seconds on the clock. We've seen how long this section is as well in this opening round. Marseille is up, but he has to be caught. It's going to be surely a 5-mark score. I haven't seen that confirmed yet. That is now confirmed. The 5-mark score for Gabriel Marseille. He finishes on 7. Maximum time penalties for both he and Aniol Jalabert, and Jalabert had the more difficult seeding position starting prior to Marseille. So only one man remains in this opening round of Wr.Neustadt, and it's Tony Bowe, 16 times world champion, 3 times winner. Under the roof of the Arena Nova, he is unbeaten at this venue. Took his 50th career win here in 2017. He's chasing his 75th career win here tonight. First mission will be to take a World Championship point from round number 1. He's got to beat 7 marks if he wants to do that. Aniol Jalabert and Gabriel Marseille lead it. Bowe, as I say, there's an opportunity to take a World Championship point if he can beat that 7-mark score. Got to beat 10 marks if he wants to end the opening round inside the top 3 positions. Only seeding order up for grabs at this stage. First error for Bowe. Single mark for footing, left foot going down. Midway through this opening section. Beautiful work as ever from Bowe on the back tyre, his speciality and his masterpiece. It's another risk for the ultimate rock. Not much of a risk to Bowe though, was it? Straight through to the finish. 1 mark on the board, so nobody managed to ride clean through the rocks. Into section 2. Again, with no time wasted. 3 riders clean through this one already. Toby Martin, Jaime Busto and Gabriel Marseille. Bowe will want to leave himself some marks in his pocket, just in case he too fails section 5. Nobody's made it through that one. So if Bowe were to fail it as well, effectively, he needs to be clean for the rest of the run in order to win this round number 1. Very carefully positioning the bike there. Slightly different approach to everyone else. Moving all the way to one side of that trunk. And it worked for him in section 2. 3.5 minutes still on the clock. Bowe is undoubtedly the fastest as well as the best in the Extra World Championship. Now to section 3. 6 riders have cleaned this one. There needs to be another clean, as I say. No room for wriggle, no room for manoeuvre, no room for error as far as Tony Bowe is concerned. He wants to take the World Championship point in the opening round. He did take 1 bonus point first time out of Extra Barcelona, but it was Jaime Busto who got the other. Bowe then, clean again in section 3. Remains on just a single mark. So if he is clean here, he will take a World Championship point. Section 4. Bowe looking for a clean to extend his championship lead. It currently stands at 6 ahead of Gabriel Marseille. Hoping to extend it to 7. First World Championship point of the night for grabs in round 1 of Wr.Neustadt. Over 2 minutes still to go. Bo can afford to take his time. Doesn't look like he's too bothered about doing so, though, does he? Close to the exit. Tony Bo. Making his way through. And making it look easy. Another clean for Tony Bo. Section 4 goes his way. The World Championship point. First bonus point of the night goes to Tony Bo. And now Section 5 is just about trying to build up his advantage. Give himself top seeding position for today's grand final. And indeed to try and secure his place in the grand final. Interesting to see his approach there, just to use those little extra boards on the left-hand side of the section. Gives himself a little bit more run-up than the others have managed. They've all been taking the right-hand side of the section, not Bo. And that's beautiful. Stretching every sinew as ever. Tony Bo with over a minute still on the clock. See, this is the advantage of having been swift earlier on. He's got plenty of time to really attack this big, big climb. Very steep it is as well. 8 riders have failed. Tony Bo has already guaranteed his victory in the opening round of competition at Wr.Neustadt. Can he now successfully complete Section 5 to ensure that his opening run ends in style? 40 seconds still to go. Big, big step this is. Making his time. Up he goes! Oh! Almost. Must be caught. But he was almost there. Tony Bo fails in Section 5. And what that means is that his advantage over Gabriel Marcelli and Aniol Jalabert is just a single mark. But more importantly than that, his gap to the first of the men outside of the top 3 will be 4 marks ahead of Jaime Busto, 5 marks ahead of Adam Raga and Benoit Bincaz. So only one error could throw him back into the pack. Nice and close finish with the top 3 separated by just a single mark. Tony Bo then leads the way and takes the first World Championship bonus point of the evening. Gabriel Marcelli and Aniol Jalabert tied on 7 marks apiece. And then Jaime Busto is best of the rest on 10. So Busto's got 3 marks to find to try and get himself into a qualification position for today's grand final. Adam Raga with 4 marks to find, down in 5th position. Won't want to be eliminated before the grand final for a 2nd consecutive extra. Strong performance and first outing at this level for Marco Mempor. Toby Martin and Matteo Grattarola will be disappointed to trail. Big story, Tony Bo walks away with the first World Championship bonus points from Wr.Neustadt.